Ever since the military, in collaboration with the Lagos state government, forcefully broke up the NSAS protest, there has been great introspection by majority of Nigerians living and doing business in the state. What if those ones had been felled by the bullets of those who were supposed to be protecting them? What if students had not been part of the protest, having kept at home for such a long time by the disruption of the academic calendar? What if the Lekki shootings occurred, there was a great outpouring of grief, and if Nigerians, no less by mothers, who continue to voice their concern regarding the direction Nigeria has been going as a nation. In the course of the NSAS protest, a group called Kingdom Women Movement held what is called a prayer walk as a way of registering their concern for the nation. Joining us now to talk with us is Adun Akinyemiju, organizer of the event, foremost educationist and proprietor, Dancehall High School in Lagos, Nigeria. It's a pleasure talking to you. A lot of prayer walks have been held this period. In fact, in some cases, mothers have come out to protest with their children as regards the SARS brutality and the likes. But I want you to sort of like chronicle what has happened in the last 2 weeks in Nigeria and how does it affect you as a mother?
Thank you so much. Would I say good morning? And I'm glad to be here to share my thoughts. I represent the Kingdom Women Movement. We are, as Kingdom Women, we're Christian women, Bible-believing women who want to see righteousness entrenched in the various spheres of life in this country. And in March, we were to have a prayer walk, but unfortunately, we couldn't because of the pandemic. We were to have the walk on the 25th of March, but then the lockdown started just about that time. And then when this whole thing started, that is when the youths decided to have the protest, we felt that this was an awakening for Nigerians. They were the voice of Nigeria. And we thought this was what we've been clamoring for. Yes, in the place of prayer, but we could also bring it out. So we decided to support them to walk and pray openly concerning Nigeria, concerning youth, concerning the various facets of life. Number one, entrenching righteousness in all of the spheres. When you look at it, there hasn't been righteousness, peace, and justice, like it says in the second stanza of our national anthem. And so we decided on our own that as a group, we would pray. But then it would be a prayer walk to lend a voice to what the youths were doing. It made a lot of sense to us. We saw them as the voice of Nigerians. Kingdom Women stand for righteousness, peace, and joy. We want to see righteousness. And we also believe as our own, in our words, that the church for us needs to do more than just Sunday service. The church needs to live out righteousness outside of church walls. We call ourselves beyond church walls, living the life of Christ. Beyond church walls, standing for righteousness. So again, talking about what happened after, why we could not even go beyond what we were doing. What happened on that night was beyond what anybody could imagine. We didn't think it was going to go that way because it was peaceful, it was meaningful, it had direction, it was going to have impact, and it still had impact. And our prayers are still going on with them. But as mothers, Kingdom Women, what we've been doing on our own has been really intensifying our intercession and then bringing out words that we have been speaking into our economy. Because within the NSAS protests, beyond the NSAS protests, there was a lot. It wasn't just NSAS. It was a call for righteousness. It was a call for restoration. It was a call to see all the things that they dream of, that those of us that are adults, those of us that are old, baby boomers, whatever, those things that we kind of took and accepted, but they are saying now enough is enough. They are no longer going to accept it. And so when the event of Tuesday happened, we were pained. And so were all mothers, crying, arise, cry. That's, we were crying. Already there was a lot of cry in the place of intercession, but this was open cry and open lamentation that these children were peaceful, but they were attacked. They were openly attacked. And we cried. We are saying no to this. It's not fair. It wasn't fair. It was unjust. And it's still unjust. It's not the way Nigeria should be. That's the situation. This is the position of all mothers, I want to believe.
Well, quite moving statements there, Mrs. Akinyemiju. But let's also talk about the school system in the face of COVID-19. And then while dealing with that, we have this national crisis about NSAS protests. What have been the challenges that your school has had to face managing this troublesome year 2020, where it's just one problem after the other? And what kind of support are proprietors, school proprietors, getting from government at all levels?
Thank you, Dr. Abati. The pandemic was one huge problem on its own. It was huge. When it started, personally, I thought it was going to be just 1 month. And it went on and on. It's been a painful, uncertain time, very critical for us. Nobody knew it was going to go this way. And then children were kept at home. It was tense for children and also for parents and for teachers. There was a lot of uncertainty. You know, the school system depends on, when it comes to, the first thing I want to say about the school system is structured. It's in terms. Okay, first term, second term, third term. And so the pandemic, the lockdown started, like I said, on the 23rd, between 23rd and 26th. And so people stayed at home, not knowing what was going to come next. Went on for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And so income was not coming in for school owners. May I say this here? The private school system is what has kept school or education going for this nation. Yes, there are schools, there are public schools, but the public schools are not meeting the needs of young children and youths. But back to the private school situation. Lagos State will give you statistics of the number of public schools and then the private schools. The number of children that are reached by private schools are more than what we reach through the public school system. But having said that, the private school owners did not get support, financial support at all. I don't know of any, maybe some that got, but many of us did not get financial support. Yeah, many had loans. There are many that are young or new and upcoming schools. They rented buildings, some took loans, and they are, as I'm speaking, in pain because we left the pandemic situation, then got into the problem or the challenge of the NSAS situation, which was also met by some catastrophic things that went or that followed it. But back to the issue of the children. The children, it's at different levels. And when you're talking, you're asking me, you are talking about the high school. Now, the high school children, when you talk to them, I remember when we asked when government asked the senior school SS3 students to return, the first few days we were trying to connect with them. It was difficult because they had been through a lot of confusion. They were not sure if they were going to have the West African School Certificate exam. They were uncertain. Some of them had lost loved ones. So it was difficult getting through to them. But we had been counseling. We had to go through counseling as groups, counseling as individuals, until after a few days, we could reach them. And when we got into them, they calmed down. They started attending the extra lessons to be able to prepare for the school certificate exam. And we are grateful to God that the school certificate exam ended before all of this. They have their fears. Children have their fears. The elementary school system also, the little children have their fears. They have their concerns. They have their fears about, will my parents lose their job? Will my parents die? Those were, we had surveys with the high school ones. These were responses that we got. And it's a good thing, even now, to find out from them what are they feeling about the EndSARS situation. It's good to relate with high school children and elementary school children. The other aspect are the little ones, the preschool that could not go in before, they were to go in just the day of the EndSARS crisis started. They spent only 1 day in school. We might think, oh, they are little, they don't know what's going on. But they do. But also the school owners have their problem, they have their challenges, they have no fees and all of that. That is from those who run just preschool. These are the challenges. Children have their challenges, but also parents have challenges. For those who are able to go on with online classes, my school was able to, but not all schools are able to. And my heart goes out to children in villages that have no access to the internet, and they are more in number than city schools that have access to the internet, and that's a major one. Those schools that have no access to the internet, for Lagos State, for instance, they'll have radios and television programs, but again, we have the electricity problem. So my heart, like I said, goes out to schools in the villages that we cannot reach. So in the last 7 months, what has been the learning gap? We need to be able to assess it. We're going to have to do a survey for those ones. For us as city schools, those who have been able to do online classes, there may not be learning gaps as such. But for many schools that have not been able to do online classes, and they are the majority, there are learning gaps. And there has to be a lot of commitment on the part of whether they are public schools, whether they are private schools, to be determined to do a makeup in all of these areas. The school calendar has been revised by Lagos State. I want to believe that other states would do the same. And when we do that, to look at where they have missed it and blend it with all the new areas of learning. We cannot afford, the situation is bad already, but we have to make amendments. Thank you.
I'd like you to please address, Ma, the specific danger that we're facing. We saw the EndSARS peaceful protest and its violent aftermath, which told a story of 2 categories of Nigerian youths, one more educated and the other one less so. And rather than close that gap, what you have just described is that there will be another generation that could face this potential chasm between 2 classes. Those who have had no access to education for 7 months might not recover. I want you to address this specifically and possibly proffer some solutions.
Thank you so much. There is this class that organized a peaceful protest. Well organized, meaningful, orderly, and all of that. And it wasn't just Nigeria. Other people believed in it. I believed in it. Many people did, and we were all for it. And suddenly, this incident of Tuesday night came in. Now, we don't know where it came from. Just a bang. What we call hoodlums, what we call area boys, what we call Orisa, or whatever name we are going to call them, and they include cults, different cult groups, they include Yahoo boys and all of that. And they include also the thugs that are used by politicians. All of this put together are products of the leak or the lack of education or the leakages or the broken system. I want to call it the broken system of education in Nigeria. And the broken system includes, number one, and it's been about maybe 30 years plus, children that were not taught. Either they were not taken to school, because again, we have figures of out-of-school children, and it's increasing, especially in Lagos State and the metropolis, whether it's Ibadan, whether it's Port Harcourt, whether it's Abuja, it's increasing. Now, children that were not sent to school, then children that were sent to school, and this is the majority, but were not taught. They were told, we would help you, you can cheat in exams, and they are in the majority. They go through the primary school, they go through the 6 years of the 3 years of junior school, 3 years of high school, and then they leave school. They can't get into university because they can't pass exam. In some cases, when JAMB was weak, they could get through. They had people who could go through and pass them through the system. Now, JAMB, by the grace of God, has been able to block. So the CBT and all that they have put together has not allowed them to get through. And so they get into university, they can't cope. Or now back to the group that could not get into university. They form themselves into groups. They are under the bridges. They now get into drugs. They get into all kinds of things. They get into cults. And some of them start the cults in secondary school. And let me explain further. Within the high schools, these teachers just make up their minds. They're not going to teach. We will help them. Help, they call it. And the exam bodies are to blame. Parents are to blame. Teachers and school owners who do it are to blame. It's a pathetic situation. It's a bomb. It's a bombshell that is exploding. Now, during the lockdown, I remember they were on the rampage in Agege, Abule, Egba, all of those areas. I don't know what it was like in the island, but again, they erupted in this EndSARS situation. I'm not sure they were protesting to protect the EndSARS group. I'm not sure. It was just an opportunity to explode. It's a very big group. It's a group that has been, they were not taught. They were not taught. And it makes me sad. The schools are not what they should be. The environments are not okay. Teachers are not teaching. They are making the children cheat. Teachers have become cheaters, and it's a pathetic situation.
Truly pathetic.
And like I said, when we have a situation like that for up to 30 years, what we are getting is a result of this group that has not been taught.
Makes all of
they have
us
not been
very
educated.
Sad.
Education is about changing. It's about changing the mindset of people. And there's something that I call social education. Letting people understand the dynamics. Letting people understand what the environment is. Most of these children don't even understand
on that note, madam,
what politics is. They see politicians as lords, and they do what they like with them, and they agree to go that way. So until we begin to teach people on the basics of health, malaria to understand, I call it social education, just begin to teach them, begin to, we need to change the setting. I don't know how we're going to do it,
what
but
we need is actually
a large group.
Yes.
It's a large group.
You're quite right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Adun Akinyemiju, for joining us on the morning show today.